Rise without permission. Unleash the power they said you shouldn't have. Produced by the School of Self-Development. Introduction. Stop asking to be great. If you're listening to this, it's not by accident. You've felt it, haven't you? That inner friction. The voice that says, you were made for more. Right before the world whispers, stay in your lane. You've had moments of boldness, followed by guilt. You've wanted to speak up, but waited for someone to give you the mic. You've dreamed louder, but shrunk back, thinking, who am I to do that? Let's get one thing clear right now. You don't need approval to grow. You need a decision to rise, without permission. From the moment we're born, we are trained to seek validation. We look to teachers for gold stars. We look to parents for, I'm proud of you. We look to society for titles, credentials, applause. And without realizing it, we give our power away, one approval at a time. But here's the truth no one tells you. The world isn't waiting to give you permission. It's waiting to see what you'll do without it. This audiobook is your wake-up call. It's not another motivational cheerleader or fluffy self-help. It's a call to rebellion, the inner kind, the kind where you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. The kind where you stop auditioning for roles in other people's stories and become the author of your own. In the chapters ahead, you'll learn why seeking approval is the greatest invisible addiction and how to break it. How to get comfortable being visible in a world that rewards conformity. How to build unshakable confidence, even without credentials, applause, or permission. Why you don't have to fix who you are. You just have to stop asking if you're allowed to be it. How to keep going, even when no one claps. Because your life is the message, not the applause. This audiobook will challenge you to burn the invisible rulebook, question the systems that trained you to stay small, and unlock a level of courage that's been buried beneath fear, rejection, and the desire to not make waves. You'll learn how to rise without permission, to lead without waiting, to take up space unapologetically. This is not about ego. It's not about arrogance. It's about authority, the kind that comes from within. Because your voice matters, even if it shakes. Your presence matters, even if no one claps. And your rise matters, especially when it makes others uncomfortable. This is your time, not because someone gave it to you, but because you finally decided to take it. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Lie of Approval Addiction. There's a silent contract you've been living under, a contract you never signed, but one that's been guiding your every move. I'll be bold as long as you approve. I'll speak up if I'm sure it won't offend. I'll chase my dreams once everyone agrees I'm ready. Sound familiar? This is the lie of approval addiction. It's the quiet voice behind every hesitation. The invisible leash wrapped around your potential. The soft, polite prison that rewards you for being agreeable, as it robs you of becoming exceptional. Let's be blunt. Approval addiction is everywhere. It's in the way we dress, the way we speak, the way we post on social media, and the way we second-guess ourselves after every meeting, interaction, or idea. It's the internal negotiation that says, will they like me if I say this? Will they support me if I try this? Will they approve of me if I become this version of myself? We live in a culture that conditions us to fear being unliked more than we fear being unfulfilled. But here's the truth that no one dares to say out loud. Approval is a moving target. What pleases one person offends another. What earns you praise today could earn you criticism tomorrow. What makes them clap in public could make them whisper in private. So why live your life as if their approval is the prize? The psychological trap. From childhood, we're trained to associate approval with survival. You were praised for coloring inside the lines. You were rewarded for following the rules. You were told to sit still, speak softly, and behave, because being accepted meant being safe. But now, you're an adult, and the habits that kept you safe are now keeping you stuck. You see, when your brain becomes addicted to approval, it forms a feedback loop. You act. You wait for a reaction. You adjust based on that reaction. You repeat. Eventually, you stop acting on your truth. You act based on their expectations. You become a puppet pulled by invisible strings, afraid to move unless the crowd applauds. But here's the danger. Every time you silence yourself to gain approval, you teach your subconscious that your truth is unsafe. And over time, you forget what your truth even sounds like. The cost of approval. Approval feels safe, but it comes with a cost, and that cost is authenticity. When you live for approval, you say yes when you mean no. You over-explain your decisions. You fear taking risks because failure might mean judgment. You shrink your brilliance to fit someone else's comfort zone. You delay your dreams because no one else is clapping yet. But the worst part, you start performing a version of yourself that's been edited, diluted, and approved for mass consumption. And one day, you look in the mirror and realize you've built a life around who you think they want you to be, but completely lost touch with who you really are. Let me ask you something, and answer it honestly. Who would you become if no one had an opinion about it? Who would you be if applause never came, but neither did criticism? What would you do if approval didn't matter? That's the version of you this audiobook wants to unleash. Not the polite one, not the perfect one, the real one. The one who speaks without overthinking, creates without permission, and moves forward without consensus. Rewiring the pattern. Breaking the addiction to approval doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop giving their opinions authority over your destiny. Here's how you start. Notice the pause. Every time you hesitate to act, speak, or create, ask yourself, am I pausing because it's not right, or because I'm afraid of how it will be received? Awareness is the first rebellion. Choose discomfort over disguise. It's uncomfortable to be seen in your truth, but it's more painful to be celebrated for a version of you that isn't real. Choose truth, even when it shakes. Redefine validation. True validation comes from within, not from applause, not from likes, from the voice that says, I showed up today as me. That's enough. Make bold decisions without a focus group. Stop running your life like a committee meeting. You don't need consensus to make a change. You need conviction. Celebrate without witnesses. Learn to clap for yourself when no one is watching. The more you validate your own steps, the less you'll rely on someone else to cheer you into motion. The new standard. In this new chapter of your life, here's the new rule. Approval is optional. Alignment is everything. You don't need them to like it. You don't need them to get it. You just need it to be true for you. Because when you live in alignment with your deepest truth, you'll magnetize the right people, repel the wrong ones, and most importantly, you'll be at peace with yourself. And that peace, it's more valuable than any amount of praise. In the next chapter, we're going deeper. We'll explore the raw fear of being seen, not the curated version, not the polished version, but the real, raw, loud version of you. Because the next level of your life requires the next level of visibility, and it's time to stop hiding in plain sight. Let's continue. Chapter 2. The Fear of Being Seen. If you've ever felt the urge to shrink, stay silent, or hide your light, you're not alone. Most people aren't afraid of failing. They're afraid of being seen failing. They're afraid of being exposed, flawed, raw, vulnerable. But here's the twist. You can't rise if you're hiding. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the very real, deeply wired fear of being visible in your truth. Not just being noticed, but being known. Not just being recognized, but being revealed. It's scary, right? Because visibility comes with risk. The risk of judgment, the risk of misunderstanding, the risk of being labeled, ridiculed, criticized, or, worst of all, rejected. Why visibility feels dangerous. On a primal level, your brain equates visibility with danger. In tribal days, standing out from the crowd often meant exile. To be accepted was to survive. To be seen was to be targeted. Fast forward to today, and that same fear still lives inside you. Only now, the threats aren't lions or exile. They're YouTube comments, family disapproval, and trolls on social media. But the instinct is the same. If I'm seen too much, I might be unsafe. So you dim your light just enough to blend in. You water down your truth just enough to keep peace. You delay the launch, silence the post, skip the opportunity, just to stay in the shadows. It's easier to be underestimated than to be misunderstood. It's safer to be invisible than unforgettable. But at what cost? The prison of palatability. Too many people live in a performance, an edited, agreeable, filtered version of themselves. They trade authenticity for applause. They trade self-expression for belonging. They trade boldness for peacekeeping. And here's what happens. The woman with revolutionary ideas stays quiet in the meeting. The man with a powerful voice hides behind sarcasm. The creator with world-changing messages stays stuck in drafts. The dreamer with a fire in their chest smothers it with, "I'm not good enough." All because they fear what it would mean to actually be seen. But here's the secret most never realize. Being fully seen is the only path to being fully free. Because as long as you're hiding parts of yourself, you're never truly home within yourself. Real power comes from exposure. Being visible is not about arrogance. It's not about ego. It's about being willing to show up, raw, real, unfiltered, and let the world adjust. It's saying, this is me, not the me you want, not the me you expected, the real me. And I'm not asking for permission to exist. When you become comfortable being seen, flaws, quirks, scars and all, you become unstoppable, because nothing owns you anymore. Not the praise, not the criticism, not the fear of either. You become free. The visibility shift. So how do you make this shift? How do you go from hiding to shining? You start here. 1. Tell the truth even if your voice shakes. Speak your truth before it's perfect. Say what you believe, even if you're still figuring it out. Truth is magnetic. Perfection is forgettable. 2. Let go of universal approval. You're not for everyone, and that's a gift. Because when you try to be for everyone, you end up being for no one, including yourself. 3. Get comfortable being misunderstood. Your job is not to be universally understood. Your job is to be authentically expressed. Misunderstanding is a sign you're saying something worth noticing. 4. Practice visibility, daily. Post the thing. Say the words. Wear the outfit. Share the message. Visibility is a muscle. Build it through repetition, not perfection. 5. Reframe exposure as leadership. Every time you let yourself be seen, you give someone else permission to do the same. Your visibility becomes their liberation. The moment it shifts. There will be a moment, maybe it's today, maybe it's coming soon, when you'll stop hiding and start showing up like you belong. Not just in rooms where you're invited, but in every space you feel called to lead. In that moment, everything shifts. You'll stop asking, what if they don't like it? And start asking, what if this changes someone's life? You'll stop dimming your light and start realizing the world is waiting for someone like you. Someone bold enough to show up in full color. So let them watch. Let them whisper. Let them misunderstand. Because the only thing worse than being seen is being forgotten. Not by the world, but by yourself. Next, in Chapter 3, we'll talk about one of the most liberating shifts you can make: confidence without credentials. Because real confidence doesn't come from titles, degrees, or applause. It comes from alignment, action, and self-trust. Chapter 3. Confidence without credentials. Let's get something straight. Confidence is not a diploma. It's not a title. It's not a number of followers, certifications, or years of experience. Confidence is a decision. It's the decision to trust yourself even before you have proof. It's the decision to act before you feel ready. It's the decision to lead before you've been crowned a leader. The world has tricked you into thinking you have to earn the right to be confident. That confidence is reserved for the chosen few, the highly educated, the long-time professionals, the charismatic extroverts. But that's a lie. You don't need permission to be powerful. You don't need validation to believe in your voice. You don't need letters after your name to know your worth. What you need is a shift from external proof to internal permission. Because true confidence isn't something you acquire, it's something you activate. The credentials trap. Society glorifies credentials. We've been raised to think, I'll be ready once I get the degree. I'll finally speak up once I've been promoted. I'll be worthy of teaching once I have more experience. We've confused preparation with permission. But here's the trap. Every time you tie your confidence to a credential, you delay your impact until someone else stamps your worth. You hand over your power to a system, a gatekeeper, or a timeline that may never come. And here's the hard truth. Some of the most credentialed people are the least confident. Because credentials don't heal insecurity, they just dress it in fancier clothes. The power of unqualified action. The people who change the world don't wait until they're qualified. They take action before the world agrees with them. Think about it. The entrepreneur who launched before anyone believed in her idea. The speaker who started with a cracked voice and shaking hands. The artist who painted without ever going to school. The leader who rose from nothing because no one told them they couldn't. What made them powerful wasn't a resume. It was belief plus movement. They didn't need to be the best. They just needed to be bold. And that same boldness is available to you. Right now. Not after another course. Not after another degree. Not after someone says you're ready. Now. Build confidence like a muscle. Confidence isn't a gift. It's a habit. And like a muscle, it's built through repetition, resistance, and recovery. Here's how. 1. Do the thing before you feel ready. You don't become confident, then act. You act, then become confident. Every time you step into the unknown, you send your brain a message. I can handle this. 2. Let progress be your proof. Instead of waiting for permission, let your own growth be the evidence. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to improve. 3. Detach from titles. Strip away the need for labels. You're not aspiring. You're doing. You're not trying. You're becoming. 4. Stack small wins. Confidence is built on wins, not wishes. Each time you speak, show up, share, or lead, you add another brick to your foundation. 5. Rewrite the inner narrative. Every time your mind says, "Who are you to do this?" respond with, "Who am I not to?" Remind yourself that doubt is not truth, it's just noise. Stop outsourcing your self-belief. You've spent too long waiting for someone to crown you worthy. But listen carefully. No one can give you confidence. No one can assign you purpose. No one can declare you ready. That's your job. Confidence is not a badge you earn. It's a torch you carry. And when you carry it proudly, no matter how small the flame at first, others will follow your light. You don't have to know it all to have something powerful to say. You don't have to be the best to offer real value. You don't have to have it all together to lead with authenticity. You just have to show up, imperfectly, honestly, consistently. Confidence is a choice. Let this be the moment you stop waiting. Let this be the moment you stop shrinking behind almost ready. Because the truth is, you're already enough. You're already equipped. You're already called. You don't need more proof. You need more courage. And courage comes when you stop trying to impress and start trying to impact. So go. Be loud. Be bold. Be unqualified and undeniable. Because confidence isn't something you find. It's something you decide. Coming up in Chapter 4, we'll dive into a life-altering shift, the identity shift. We'll explore how to rewrite your internal narrative and break free from the labels you've been carrying for years. Because to rise without permission, you have to stop being who they said you were and start becoming who you choose to be. Ready? Let's go. Chapter 4. The Identity Shift. If you want to rise, you must evolve, but not just your habits, not just your routines. You must evolve your identity, because no matter how many strategies you try, how many books you read, how many hours you grind, you will never outperform your internal story. Let me say that again. You will never outperform your identity. The version of yourself you keep believing you are is the ceiling on everything you want to become. So let's pull back the curtain. Let's challenge the script. Let's shift your identity from who you were trained to be to who you choose to become. Identity is the root, not the result. Most people live backwards. They think, I need to succeed, then I'll feel confident. I need to get results, then I'll believe I'm worthy. I need the evidence first, then I'll change how I see myself. But it doesn't work that way. Identity drives behavior, not the other way around. If your identity is stuck in, I'm not a leader, I'm just average, I always mess things up, I'm not good at that, then it doesn't matter what actions you take. Your subconscious will sabotage anything that doesn't match your self-image. Why? Because your subconscious isn't loyal to your dreams. It's loyal to your identity. If your identity says, I'm unworthy, then the moment success shows up, you'll find a way to push it away. If your identity says, I'm invisible. You'll keep hiding when opportunity knocks. But here's the freedom you've been waiting for. Identity isn't fixed. It's chosen. You're not stuck with the version of yourself that fear built. You're allowed to rewrite the script. Who you've been versus who you choose to be. You've been told that your past defines you, that your personality is just who you are. That change is hard, slow, or impossible. Wrong. Change is a decision backed by alignment. You don't become someone new through time. You become someone new through truth. And truth sounds like, I'm not who they said I was. I can learn this. I'm no longer available for that pattern. I'm becoming the version of me that matches my vision. Here's the real question. Are you more committed to who you were or who you're becoming? Because one has to die for the other to live. You cannot rise as your highest self while clinging to the identity built from your lowest moments. The process of identity shifting. So how do you shift your identity? Not through fake affirmations, not through pretending, through alignment. Let's break it down. 1. Name the old identity. Start by identifying who you've been unconsciously being. Ask yourself, what stories have I believed about myself? Where did they come from? Who do I become when I feel small, scared, or unworthy? Awareness is power. You can't shift what you can't see. 2. Define the new identity. Get clear on the version of you that matches the life you want. How does this version of me speak? What does this version of me believe? What decisions does this version of me make daily? This isn't about faking it. It's about choosing it. 3. Act from the new identity. Here's the magic. You don't wait to feel like that version of you. You act like them now. You borrow their habits. You speak their language. You show up with their posture, their boundaries, their boldness. Over time, your brain catches up, and what once felt like a stretch becomes your new normal. 4. Let go of external confirmation. Don't wait for people to validate the new you. Most people only recognize you as who you used to be, because that's how they stay comfortable. Your job isn't to convince them. Your job is to become. The right people will align. The wrong ones will fade. And neither should determine your direction. From I am to I choose. Language is powerful. Every time you say, I am, you're casting a vote for your identity. I am anxious. I am not good at that. I am always messing up. These aren't facts. They're choices, repeated ones. So start choosing better. Try this instead. I'm becoming someone who trusts themselves. I'm learning to show up boldly. I choose to believe I'm worthy before the world agrees. Who you are is not your history. Who you are is your habit of thought. Change the thoughts. Change the identity. Change the identity. Change your entire life. You are not who they remember. Here's a truth that may sting a little. People will try to keep you as who they met you as. Why? Because your growth challenges their comfort. Your evolution threatens their stability. Your rise reminds them of their stagnation. But your life is not a museum. You don't owe anyone consistency with your past. You don't have to be who you were last week, last month, or 5 minutes ago. You're allowed to shift. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to become unrecognizable, even to yourself. That's the point. You didn't come here to play the same role forever. You came here to rise. So rise with new language. Rise with new decisions. rise with a new name if you have to. Because the version of you that's waiting is already ready. She's not seeking permission. He's not looking for applause. They're just waiting for you to say, "I'm not that anymore. I'm this now." And mean it. Next, we break through the quiet expectations that rule our lives in Chapter 5. Burn the invisible rulebook. You'll learn how to identify the silent scripts society gave you, and why success means questioning everything you were told to follow. Let's keep rising. Chapter 5. Burn the invisible rulebook. You've been following rules you never agreed to. Rules no one handed you directly, but that you absorbed silently, consistently, without question. Rules like, be nice even when it hurts. Don't be too much. Wait your turn. Stay in your lane. Don't ruffle feathers. Success should look a certain way. These are the invisible rulebooks written by society, culture, family, and fear. They're unspoken, but always enforced. They're unwritten, but heavily policed. And if you don't burn them, they will burn you. Who wrote your rules? From birth, we inherit a silent curriculum. We learn not just language and math, but how to behave, how to fit in, how to be liked, how to survive in a world that punishes too much difference. This curriculum is subtle but powerful. Good girls are quiet. Real men don't cry. Don't dream too big. Don't fail in public. Be realistic. That's not how it's done. By the time you're a teenager, you've internalized dozens of these rules. By adulthood, they feel like truth. But they're not truth. They're programming. And if you don't question that programming, you'll build your life on it, even when it contradicts your soul. Let me be very clear. The rules you follow determine the life you live. If your rulebook says, play small, your results will stay small. If your rulebook says, wait for permission, you'll always live behind a locked door. If your rulebook says, don't upset anyone, you'll end up betraying yourself just to keep others comfortable. So the question becomes, whose rules are you really living by? And are they still serving you? Rules that keep you stuck. Let's expose some of the most toxic, invisible rules we unconsciously follow. 1. You have to earn rest. This rule glorifies burnout and guilt trips rest. It tells you that rest must be purchased with productivity. Truth. Rest is not a reward, it's a right. 2. You need to be liked to succeed. This keeps you people-pleasing instead of power-stepping. It makes you prioritize approval over authenticity. Truth. Impact requires edge, not applause. 3. If it's not perfect, don't share it. This rule paralyzes creators and silences leaders. It makes you fear judgment more than you value growth. Truth. Done is better than perfect. Real is better than polished. 4. Play it safe. Stability is success. This rule tells you to settle, avoid risks, and choose comfort. Truth. Stability is not the same as satisfaction. Comfort is not the same as purpose. 5. Stay humble. Don't brag. This rule trains you to dim your light so others feel better. Truth. Celebrating yourself is not arrogance, it's alignment. These aren't laws, they're illusions, and it's time to revoke them. Burning the book. Burning the invisible rulebook doesn't mean becoming reckless. It means becoming sovereign. It means choosing your own path, writing your own definitions, and no longer shrinking to fit a system that was never designed for your greatness. Here's how you begin. 1. Name the rule. When you feel stuck, ask, what rule am I following right now? Identify it. Write it down. Bring it into the light. 2. Question the rule. Ask, who gave me this rule? Is it true? Has it actually helped me grow, or just kept me small? 3. Break the rule, safely. Test it. Defy it. Speak up. Say no. Launch it anyway. Every act of rebellion is an act of self-trust. 4. Write new rules. Replace the toxic scripts with truth. Try these. I don't need permission to be powerful. I can rest and still be worthy. I choose alignment over approval. I honor my voice, even if it's misunderstood. 5. Live the new narrative. This is the most important part. You can't just think new thoughts. You must live new truths. Let your actions contradict the old rulebook. Let your life disprove the lie. That's how new stories are written, not on paper, but in motion. Be the exception. You are allowed to rise in ways they never taught you. You are allowed to create your own path, even if no one understands it. You can be kind and powerful. You can be humble and visible. You can be driven and gentle. You can be bold and generous. You can be wildly successful without following the correct sequence, because you are the exception. You are the one who breaks the mold. You are the proof that the old rulebook was broken all along. And when others see you rise without it, they'll realize they can too. That's leadership. That's rebellion. That's freedom. So light the match, burn the page, rise from the ashes of who you were told to be. Your new life doesn't follow their rules. It follows your truth. In Chapter 6, we'll break down how to stop outsourcing your authority and finally step into your own internal yes. Because waiting for validation is a trap, but self-permission? That's power. Chapter 6. Self-permission is the new superpower. At some point, you have to stop waiting. Stop waiting for someone to invite you. Stop waiting for the timing to feel perfect. Stop waiting for applause, agreement, approval, or acknowledgement. Because the longer you wait, the longer you delay your life. Self-permission is your new superpower, not borrowed power, not delegated power, not fragile, externally sourced, approval-based permission, but internal, unshakable, activated on demand self-permission, the kind that doesn't ask, do they think I'm ready? But declares, I decide I'm ready now. Let's unpack this game-changing shift. The trap of external validation. You've been conditioned to believe that someone else needs to tell you. You're smart enough to lead. You're qualified enough to start. You're worthy enough to be seen. You're valuable enough to charge more. You're strong enough to break the pattern. You've waited for green lights from bosses, friends, parents, peers, never realizing that their silence isn't a stop sign. It's just a distraction. When your internal compass is tuned to external validation, you become dependent on a signal that may never come. And even when it does, you don't trust it, because your power wasn't built on truth. It was built on permission slips. But here's what they never taught you in school. You don't need a permission slip. You are the authority. Self-permission is the act of becoming your own gatekeeper, green light, and governing body. It's no longer, am I allowed? It's, I allow myself. That is power. That is freedom. Why we struggle to give ourselves permission. Let's be honest, This is hard. Why? Because deep down, most people fear being wrong, being judged, being disliked, being alone, being too much, or, surprisingly, being successful. And so we stall, we overthink, we hesitate, not because we're not capable, but because we're still waiting for someone else to say, yes, go. This is approval-seeking's final form, waiting for permission to be fully yourself. But self-leadership starts when you recognize you are the yes you've been waiting for. You are the validator. You are the permission giver. You are the decision maker. And when you live from that place, your life starts to move. Fast. The power of self-permission. When you give yourself permission, everything changes. You stop editing your voice to make it more digestible. You stop shrinking your ideas to make them palatable. You stop performing worthiness and start living it. You stop seeking the right moment and start creating it. Self-permission creates momentum, and momentum leads to mastery. Confidence doesn't come before the decision. Confidence is built through the decision. You go first. The feeling follows. Ways to practice self-permission. Here's how to stop waiting and start giving yourself the green light. 1. Give yourself permission to be seen. Stop hiding behind preparation. Post the video. Publish the article. Take the mic. Don't wait until it's polished. Just let it be true. 2. Give yourself permission to say no. You don't owe anyone your peace, your time, or your capacity. Self-permission means protecting your energy like a sacred asset, because it is. 3. Give yourself permission to lead. You don't need a fancy title to make a difference. Lead where you stand. Lead with your voice. Lead with your example. 4. Give yourself permission to change. You're not required to stay consistent with a version of you that no longer feels aligned. Permission to evolve is the ultimate self-respect. 5. Give yourself permission to succeed loudly. Stop downplaying your wins. Own your growth. Share your story. Let success be seen. It gives others permission to dream. You don't need their yes. Some people won't understand your growth. Some will mislabel your boldness as arrogance. Some will shrink from your shine. That's not your problem. The minute you stop needing their yes is the minute you reclaim your life. Self-permission doesn't guarantee everyone will support you. It guarantees that you will support you. And that's enough. Because the more you validate yourself, the less you require validation from others. You become a self-sustaining power source, unshakable, unstoppable, unapologetic. The I Allow Declaration. Try this today. Say it out loud. I allow myself to rise. I allow myself to be seen. I allow myself to be powerful. I allow myself to let go of guilt. I allow myself to succeed, even if no one claps. I allow myself to take up space, shift direction, change my mind, and follow my truth. And repeat it until it no longer feels like a reach, but a reality. Because the life you want isn't behind a locked door. It's behind a locked mindset. And the key is your permission. You've burned the rulebook. You've activated self-permission. Now it's time to amplify. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to unapologetically show up, speak up, and stand out, even when others don't understand. Chapter 7. Get loud with your life. You weren't born to whisper. You weren't made to tiptoe, to shrink, to fold yourself into silence just to fit into rooms that never saw your worth in the first place. You were born to resonate, to echo, to amplify what makes you different, to live so fully expressed that your existence becomes a message without words. It's time to stop muting your power. It's time to get loud with your life. Why loudness matters. Loud doesn't mean obnoxious. It doesn't mean arrogant. Doesn't mean you're trying to steal the spotlight. It means you're done dimming your light to make others comfortable. Being loud means owning your space. It means leading with your truth. It means showing up fully, without editing, censoring, or filtering your soul. Because silence can be a prison. And loudness can be freedom. You can't rise quietly. You can't inspire others from the shadows. You can't lead with your light if it's hidden under self-doubt and social conditioning. You weren't meant to be digestible. You were meant to be undeniable. The high cost of staying silent. Let's be honest. How many ideas have you buried to avoid judgment? How many conversations have you swallowed to avoid conflict? How many dreams have you delayed because you didn't want to be too much? And yet, every time you silence your truth to keep the peace, you start a war inside yourself. You don't just lose your voice, you lose your direction. You lose clarity, you lose time. Silence isn't always humility. Sometimes, it's self-abandonment. How to turn up the volume on your life. If you're going to rise without permission, you've got to stop whispering your worth. You've got to let your life get loud, visibly, vocally, unapologetically. Here's how. 1. Own your story. Your story isn't too messy, too strange, too painful, or too average. It's your medicine. When you tell the truth about where you've been, you give others permission to heal too. 2. Speak before you feel ready. You don't need to master your voice before you use it. Use it now. Say the thing. Take up the mic. If it shakes, let it shake loud. 3. Create without consensus. Stop waiting for people to agree with your ideas before you express them. Greatness isn't created by consensus. It's created by courage. Paint the picture. Build the brand. Start the business. Tell the story. Not because they asked, but because you had to. 4. Move in public. The most powerful transformation happens in public, not because of the audience, but because of the accountability. Be seen growing. Be seen building. Be seen becoming. Let them witness your rise, not because they gave you permission, but because you stopped needing it. 5. Be polarizing with purpose. Trying to be liked by everyone is the fastest way to be remembered by no one. Stand for something. Be willing to say what others won't. Be willing to be too loud for the ones still living in fear. The world doesn't need more vanilla. It needs your full flavor. Stop censoring your light. Your potential doesn't need polishing. It needs permission to be loud. Let your creativity be loud. Let your leadership be loud. Let your boundaries be loud. Let your ambition be loud. Let your healing be loud. Let your love, your pain, your presence be loud. Stop apologizing for being seen. Start celebrating that you showed up at all. Because loudness isn't about noise. It's about frequency. It's about vibrating in such alignment with your truth that the people meant for you can't unhear you. Your volume is how they find you. Your visibility is how they follow you. Your boldness is how they believe it's possible for them, too. Live like a megaphone. Let this be your new mantra. My life speaks louder than my fears. My presence is a message. My rise is not an accident. It's a signal. You don't need to post perfectly. You don't need to speak with elegance. You just need to be real, loudly. People don't remember polished. They remember honest. So be honest. Be bold. Be loud with your life. Let your actions shout. Let your integrity echo. Let your presence punch through the noise of mediocrity. You weren't made for silence. You were made for signal. In the next chapter, you'll learn how to stop fearing the no's that come with boldness and instead use them as a redirection toward purpose. Because if rejection is the price for authenticity, then it's worth every penny. Chapter 8. Reject rejection. Rejection, even the word feels sharp. It's the punch that lands just beneath your ribs, the sting that lingers in your gut long after the moment is over, the silence that echoes louder than words. And yet, rejection isn't a stop sign. It's a redirect. It's a mirror. It's a badge. It's proof that you're in motion. Because rejection only happens to people who dare to ask, to try, to risk, to create, to show up. It's not a curse. It's a confirmation. You're in the arena. And the arena is where transformation lives. The fear that freezes you. Let's be honest. Most people don't fear failure. They fear rejection. They fear being told, no, you're not good enough. No, you don't belong here. No, we don't choose you. No, not you. Someone else. That kind of rejection triggers ancient pain. It pokes the oldest wounds: abandonment, inadequacy, exclusion. So we armor up. We play it safe. We stay silent to stay accepted. But the price of avoiding rejection is enormous. When you fear rejection, you stay small so no one has a reason to push back. Don't apply. Don't post. Don't speak. Don't try. Wait to be invited instead of building your own table. Shrink in your relationships to keep the peace. Settle for less because aiming higher feels dangerous. And worst of all, you reject yourself preemptively. You say no to your own greatness before the world ever gets a chance. Reframing the no. Here's the shift that changes everything. Rejection is not personal. It's directional. It's not a verdict on your worth. It's feedback about alignment. It's a course correction, not a condemnation. When the door closes, it's often because it wasn't your door. When the opportunity falls through, it's often making room for the real one. When they say no, it's not about you. It's about their lens, their timing, their story. You are not being rejected. You are being redirected to better timing, to deeper alignment, to your next level. Why the most powerful people are rejected the most. The higher you rise, the more rejection you face. Why? Because boldness invites resistance. Visibility attracts criticism. Authenticity agitates people who are hiding. Every no you receive is a sign that you're reaching further than most people are willing to go. Think about it. The visionary who started their business got rejected by 100 investors before one said yes. The artist whose work was turned down by 20 galleries before one took a chance. The speaker who got booed off the stage before they went viral. The author whose manuscript was passed over by dozens of publishers before becoming a bestseller. They were told no again and again. But they kept saying yes to themselves. That's the difference. The mindset of rejection-proof people. Rejection-proof people aren't made of stone. They feel the sting, but they don't let it write the story. Here's what they do differently. 1. They don't internalize it. Rejection is information, not identity. It's about fit, not failure. They don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" They ask, "What can I learn here?" 2. They expect resistance. They understand that pushing boundaries will create friction. Rejection is baked into the process of becoming great. 3. They collect no's like currency. Each no brings them closer to the right yes. They don't just tolerate rejection. They track it, celebrate it, thank it. 4. They use rejection as fuel. They let every closed door sharpen their focus. They rise stronger, clearer, louder, because of the rejection, not despite it. 5. They never let a no outweigh their inner yes. Their self-belief is louder than the external disapproval, and that's a superpower. The rejection declaration. Try this declaration. I no longer fear rejection. I expect it. I learn from it. I rise through it. I reject the idea that a no defines me. I am not here for everyone. I am here for alignment. I keep going, even when the world says stop, because I'm not powered by permission. I'm powered by purpose. Say that out loud every time rejection tries to shut you down. Say it until you believe it. Then act like it's already true. Because here's the ultimate freedom. Once you're no longer afraid of rejection, you become unstoppable. You apply for things others wouldn't. You post things others are too scared to say. You try, you launch, you build, you speak, without waiting for a safety net. You rise, and the world has no choice but to catch up. In the next chapter, you'll learn how to continue building, showing up, and evolving, even when no one notices, supports, or celebrates you. Because applause is nice, but self-validation is unstoppable. Chapter 9. Keep going without clapping. Not all progress comes with praise. Not all growth is celebrated. Not every act of courage gets an audience. And that's okay. Because the most powerful people in the world, they don't rise because of applause. They rise despite the lack of it. They keep going without clapping. Let's be real. You've done brave things in silence. You've grown behind closed doors. You've healed without a cheer squad. You've made hard decisions when no one was watching. You've put in the reps, the hours, the heart, without a single round of applause. And you're still here. Still building. Still becoming. That's not weakness. That's power. Because waiting for recognition is a trap. But building from self-belief, that's unstoppable. Why the applause might not come. Here's the truth. Sometimes they don't clap. Not because you're not worthy. Not because you're not making an impact, but because they're too busy watching their own struggle. They don't recognize your courage until it benefits them. They're afraid your growth will highlight their stagnation. Or they're just not meant to see what you're building yet. But applause is never the point. Applause is a bonus. Alignment is the mission. You don't grow to be seen. You grow to be free. You don't evolve to impress. You evolve to align with your truth. And that process, it often happens in silence. The discipline of uncelebrated effort. The question isn't, will they clap for me? The question is, will I keep going when they don't? Because your character is built in the quiet seasons, in the unseen reps, in the lonely nights of self-reflection, in the moments where quitting would be easier, but your calling won't let you. That's where greatness is born. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Not in the performance, but in the preparation. Not on stage, but in solitude. Rewiring your motivation. If your motivation comes from others, you'll always be chasing. But when your motivation comes from within, you become magnetic. Here's how to cultivate self-sourced momentum. 1. Celebrate micro wins internally. Did you show up today? Did you push past fear? Did you follow through when it was hard? Clap for that. Loudly. Even if you're the only one in the room. 2. Create a proof of growth journal. Every week, write down 3 ways you've grown. Not what the world praised, but what you're proud of. Build your own evidence of evolution. 3. Detach from validation metrics. Forget the likes. Forget the views. Focus on impact, intention, and integrity. Ask yourself, did this align with my truth? That's the only measure that matters. 4. Become addicted to the process, not the praise. Fall in love with the becoming. Let the building be the reward. Let consistency be the trophy. 5. Remind yourself, you're not invisible. You're early. Just because they're not clapping yet doesn't mean they never will. Sometimes the world takes time to catch up to your frequency. Be patient, but keep rising. Why self-validation is your greatest asset. The world doesn't owe you recognition, and you don't owe it your silence. The moment you realize that your voice, your gifts, and your growth are valid, even when unnoticed, is the moment you take your power back. Because self-validation creates consistency when there's no audience, confidence when there's no mentor, discipline when there's no deadline, resilience when there's no reward. When you master the art of clapping for yourself, you no longer move for applause. You move from alignment. And that's unshakable. That's the kind of energy that builds legacies. Not because they cheered, but because you chose to keep going anyway. Your rise is already valid. Let me remind you of something powerful. Your growth doesn't need to be noticed to be real. Your process doesn't need to be praised to be sacred. Your rise doesn't need to be applauded to be unstoppable. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not lost. You're building something eternal. The kind of transformation that can't be measured in claps, comments, or approval. You're becoming undeniable, and soon, the same people who didn't notice will wonder how they missed you. But even if they don't, you noticed. You showed up, you did the work, you kept going, and that's what makes you rare. And now we arrive at the final chapter. In this final, powerful close, we'll unpack how your courage to rise isn't just personal. It's a revolutionary act that gives others permission to do the same. Chapter 10. Your rise is a rebellion. This isn't just a personal development journey. This is a revolution. Every time you say yes to your voice, your vision, your value, you are saying no to centuries of conditioning. You are rebelling against every system, story, and structure that taught you to doubt yourself, to stay small, to wait quietly. You rising? That's a threat to the status quo, and it's exactly what the world needs. Why they told you to stay small. Let's be honest, the world is more comfortable when you're quiet, when you play by the rules, when you don't question, when you fit in, follow along, and stay in your lane. Your power unsettles people, not because it's wrong, but because it reflects what they've been suppressing in themselves. When you stand tall, you cast a shadow on every excuse they've ever made. When you rise, you challenge every lie they've told themselves about what's possible. And for some people, that's uncomfortable. So they'll try to shame you, silence you, shrink you, dismiss you, not because you're wrong, but because your rise disrupts their comfort. But here's the truth. You're not too much. You're just the reminder they've been avoiding. And your rebellion? It's sacred. Your rise liberates others. Think about the people you've admired, the ones who inspired you to grow. They weren't playing it safe. They were loud. They were messy. They were bold. They were visible. And because they rose, you believed you could too. That's the ripple. That's the rebellion. When you rise without permission, you don't just change your life. You become a signal, a lighthouse, a disruptor, a leader. And you send a message to everyone watching. It's safe to be seen. It's okay to be loud. It's powerful to be different. You don't have to wait anymore. You become the proof, the evidence that it's possible to lead yourself, to validate yourself, to become yourself. Rebellion doesn't always look loud. Sometimes rebellion looks like saying no when you were taught to always say yes. Setting a boundary when you were raised to be agreeable. Charging your worth when you were taught to be grateful for crumbs. Speaking your truth when you were told to be silent. Choosing joy in a world addicted to suffering. Sometimes rebellion is gentle. Sometimes it's quiet. But it's always powerful. Because every time you choose authenticity over approval, you're rewriting the rules. Every time you choose alignment over applause, you're burning the old script. And every time you choose to rise, you give others the courage to rise too. This is bigger than you. You are not just rising for yourself. You are rising for the younger version of you who didn't know they were allowed to be great. The people watching in silence, waiting for a sign. The next generation who needs to know freedom is possible. You are breaking generational patterns. You are disrupting narratives. You are creating space for others to breathe deeper, dream bigger, and move faster. Your rise is personal, but it's never just about you. It's about the impact of you, the legacy of you, the revolution of you. This is your identity. Now, you are no longer someone who waits. You are no longer someone who whispers. You are no longer someone who plays small. You are someone who leads themselves, builds in silence, speaks up anyway, stands tall in their truth, moves without permission, lives loudly, loves deeply, and leads boldly. You don't follow the path. You make one. You don't ask, "Is this okay?" You say, "This is who I am." You don't beg to be seen. You own your visibility. And you don't apologize for your rise. You amplify it. Because the world needs more leaders. Not the kind waiting to be appointed, but the kind who decide to lead. The kind who understand that their rise is a rebellion. Final declaration. Say this out loud. Breathe it in. Memorize it. Embody it. I rise without permission. I don't wait to be chosen. I choose myself. I don't wait for applause. I clap first. I don't shrink to be digestible. I expand to be unforgettable. I am the proof. I am the disruption. I am the rebellion. And I'm just getting started. Conclusion. You were the key all along. You've made it to the end. But this isn't really the end, is it? Because the moment you stopped seeking permission, the moment you stopped waiting to be chosen, the moment you decided to rise anyway, that was the beginning of your real life. Throughout this audiobook, you've been challenged to let go of the invisible rules, to burn the scripts, to defy the internal doubt, to rise in your rawness, your voice, your truth. You've learned that approval is a drug, and the detox requires courage. That being seen is scary, but hiding is deadly. That confidence doesn't come from titles, it comes from trust. That identity can be rewritten the moment you decide to choose a new version of you. That the rulebook can be burned and rebuilt with your truth. That self-permission isn't optional, it's your oxygen. That getting loud with your life creates waves of transformation. That rejection isn't failure, it's redirection. That applause is nice, but your belief in yourself is everything. And that ultimately, your rise is not just personal, it's revolutionary. This audiobook was never about making you feel inspired for a moment. It was about activating something in you that cannot be turned off. That voice inside you, the one you kept suppressing, questioning, dimming. It's not going away, it's only getting louder. And now you know, you were the permission slip. You were the authority. You were the green light. You were the revolution. The door you kept waiting for someone else to open? It was never locked. It was waiting for you to turn the handle. Now you have. So, what comes next? You move. You lead. You create. You rise. Not someday. Not when it's safe. Not when it's perfect. Not when they clap. Now. This is your life. This is your rebellion. This is your permission to never need permission again. Go break the mold. Go disrupt the silence. Go become the proof. And never forget, the world told you to wait. You chose to rise. And that changed everything.